In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create the ultimate transparent sticky header with a hide on scroll down and with a semi-transparent full screen menu with blurred background. And all of that with
just Elementor Pro.
Okay, so first let's take a look at what we're going to build today. As you can see, we have the transparent navigation here at the top, and when I start scrolling, it disappears. Now if I scroll back up, it reappears. Now we could also let it so that it always appears, but in this tutorial I want to do something a little bit different because this is really a modern way of creating a navigation. See that space here on top. On a big screen, it doesn't really matter, but on smaller screen, it's the kind of real estate that you want to keep. So I thought it was interesting to show you how to do that. Now, of course, it also works on the tablet. So same behavior. When I start scrolling and then I scroll back up, it reappears. And if I click on the navicon, I have my blur background full screen navigation. And once again, you don't have to use that blurred background. You could have just a solid color background, but I just wanted to show you how to do it. And last but not least, especially not in those times where the mobile is king, same behavior. So I'll scroll, it disappears, and then it reappears. And I think it's really for the mobile that is so interesting that it disappears when you start scrolling down so you can see the whole of the screen. And once again, when we click on the navicon, we have our full screen navigation. So what do you need to complete this project? Well, apart from WordPress, of course, you need a WordPress theme, and I recommend Astra because I'm using the free version in this tutorial. So you can just download it from their website or from the WordPress dashboard, which in my opinion is more convenient. Next, you need the Elementor plugin, and more specifically Elementor Pro, because we want some theme builder capabilities, such as the custom header, the custom footer, and some dynamic links. Elementor Pro starts at $49 per year for one website, $99 for 3 websites, and $199 for 1,000 websites, which in my opinion is the best plan. Now I've put some links in the description. These are affiliate links, which means that I do get a commission if you purchase after clicking on one of my links, but one, only recommend Elementor Pro because I absolutely love this product and I use it every day. And 2, commissions actually help me support this channel and create free content. For you, it changes absolutely nothing. You pay the same price, but I do get a kickback, which I truly appreciate. So you don't have to purchase through my link, but if you do,
thank you.
Okay, so this is what we have with the regular Astra navigation, and this is what we want to achieve. So for that, let's go into the WordPress dashboard. And the first thing you want to check is that you've created a menu. Now, I've already created one. For that, you would go to Appearance, Menus, and make sure you remember the name of the menu. If you just have one, it's going to be easy, but I have quite a few here. So remember the name of the menu, and then you just click on the pages, and you can just add pages to the menu. Now, this is not a course about WordPress, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Make sure you select this as your primary menu. Now, my guess is you already know how to do that, and if you don't, there are plenty of tutorials here on YouTube. And we got a lot to cover, so let's move on. Make sure you save your menu first. And then we want to make sure that we create a page that's long enough so that we can test actually the scrolling. Now, I've already created that page. You don't have to make it look like this one because this one actually took quite some time to create. But all you need to do is create long section, long enough so that when you scroll, you can test the sticky function. So at this time, I wouldn't really care too much about the content and about the cosmetics. Just make sure that it's long enough. Okay, next we're going to create a full screen navigation that you can see when we click on the navicon right here. So for that, let's go back to WordPress. Now, I've already created a lot of detailed tutorials about how to create that full screen pop-up. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this today because we have a lot to cover. But if you want to follow those tutorials, I'll put a link either right here in the card or in the description below. So with that out of the way, I'm quickly going to show you how to do it. So you would go to Templates, Pop-ups. I've already created one, but we're going to create one from scratch, and I'm quickly going to show you the basics, and then I will show you the final result. Once again, you can follow the full-length tutorial if you want to know how to do it. So click on Add New, and make sure you give it a name that you remember. So I'm just going to call it Off Canvas, pop-up off canvas. Click on Create Template. Okay, and we don't want to use any of the templates, so I'm just going to close this. So first of all, we want to create one section, and with our section selected, so let me make this a bit larger. First of all, I'm going to select full width. Then for the height, I'm going to select min height, and I'm going to give it a value of 100 VH that you can see here. So 100 VH. And next, I'm just going to click on the gear icon here at the bottom left corner where it says settings. So just click on that. And we want to give it a width of 100 VW. Next, for the height, we want to select custom and then VH, and we're going to give it a value of 100 VH. Still with our pop-up settings selected, go to the Style tab, click on Classic, and for example, let's give it a black background color. And then I will start dragging some widgets. So I click on the widget icon here on top, and with element selected, I'm going to type nav menu. Okay, and then I would drag the navigation here, and as you can see, it's giving me all the pages I have. So now you need to remember the menu we created in a previous step. Okay, so this would be the navigation. I would want it to be vertical, in my case, centered, and then I would start styling it, and I would do the same thing for the buttons. So if you can find it, just type button. I would drag a button. If I want a call to action, same thing, I would just center it, and then I would add some social icons. Now, of course, you'd also make sure that it works well in tablet and mobile modes. As you can see here, it's giving me a navigation within a navigation, and we don't want that. So with our navigation selected, I would go here on the content tab, and where it says align, I'm just gonna put it in the center, and where it says toggle button, I'm just going to select none. And then I have my navigation here in tablet and in mobile mode. And next I would move to style, and I would start styling the whole navigation. Now, as mentioned, I've already covered that in another tutorial, but you get the idea. So let me go back to the desktop version and let me show you the final result. Okay, there you go. So this is the final result, but as you can see, the background is just a unified color. Now, if we go back to the demo, when I click on the navicon, you can see here that in our demo, the background is actually transparent, semi-transparent, and the background is blurred. Now, we'll show you how to do that later on in this tutorial, but you could also just leave a unified color background if you prefer. Okay, in this segment, we're going to create our header. So for that, go to Templates, Theme Builder, and then click on Add New, select Header from the drop-down, and we're going to call it My Header. Click on Create Template. Okay, and we don't want any of the pre-styled headers. So first of all, make sure you open the navigator. I always have it open, but if it's not open, just click here in the bottom left corner. You can click on Navigator, and then it will appear here, or you can use Command I on the Mac, and I guess Control I on the PC, on the Windows PC or Linux. Okay. So first of all, let's click on creating a new section. So let me show you once again. Click on the plus here. We're going to select a section with 3 columns. And let's start styling that section. So first of all, it's going to be full width. And then we want the height to be a minimum height of, actually in pixels, a minimum height of 70 pixels. Column position is fine. For the HTML tag, we want to select header for SEO purposes. Next, let's move on to the Style tab and click on Classic for the background type. Click on Color, and temporarily we're going to give it a solid color. We need to remove that later on in the tutorial, but if we do it now, we won't be seeing what we're doing because it's going to be white on white. So just pick a dark color. Okay, next we want to move to advanced. We want to give it a margin of 0. So for that, I just clicked on the icon to unlink the values. And I'm going to do the same thing for the padding, but we're going to change those values. So unlink the values and give it a 5 pixels top, 30 pixels right, 5 bottom, and 30 left. For the Z index, we want to give it a Z index of 10. And for the CSS ID, we want to call it navbar. Now, it's very important that you actually write it like this because we're going to copy and paste some code that uses that reference. So navbar.
NAVBAR.
Okay, next we want to take care of our columns. So the first column should be like more or less 35%. The second column should be about 60. There you go. And the last column should be more or less 5%. Let's make sure that all our columns are using the same margin and padding. So click on the first column, and for the widget space, you want to give it 0. And then we want to go to the advanced tab and give it a padding of 0. So just unlink the values and repeat the operation for the next two columns. So widget space 0, and then advanced, unlink the padding values to give it a 0 everywhere. And last but not least, the third column, and repeat the operation. We also want to select the vertical alignment. So once again, let's go back to our first column, layout, vertical align in the middle, and we want to do that for each column. So vertical align in the middle. Now you may be wondering why I did not just copy the column style and paste it to the other columns. Well, for first, they don't have the same width. And sometimes also with the responsive layouts, you have some different values when it comes to the mobile or the tablet for the middle column or the last column. So I just didn't want to do it in this case. But in some other cases, it would be fine. Okay, so with our header ready, now we can start adding some of the elements. So first click on the widgets icon here and just type image. Just going to drag an image here. Okay, so I'm going to select an image in the library. I've already created a logo. So let me use this one here. I'm going to align it on the left. And also I want to link it to the home page. So for that, click on custom URL, then click on the dynamic tags icon here, the little database icon, and just select site URL. Okay, next you want to move to the style tab, and for the width, select pixels and give it a value of 25 pixels. It's a temporary value because we're going to change that with some code. You're going just to copy and paste, so no worry here. Okay, next we want to add a nav menu. So I'm just going to type nav menu. Okay, once again, it's bringing all the pages on the website. So I'm just going to select the menu I created, and I'm going to align it to the right. And I'm going to style it in a moment. And last but not least, I want to add an icon widget. So just drag an icon to the last column, and that's going to be our navicon. So click on the icon. Now you get the icon library. I'm going to use grip. So grip lines. Okay, and I want to give it a dynamic link. So click on the dynamic tags option here, and then scroll until you see pop-up. Then once you've selected pop-up, click on the wrench icon and start typing the name of the pop-up. So mine is actually called full screen, but if you followed along and you created a pop-up that's called off canvas, it will be different for you. So whatever pop-up you created in the previous step. Next, I want to move on to the style tab, and I'm going to give it a size of 25. Okay, and then I'm going to the advanced tab, and I'm just going to unlink the margin values, and I'm going to give it a top value of 10. Actually, you have to play with the value to make sure that it's actually well centered vertically. I know we did that for the columns, but sometimes you have to tweak it. So you're going to have to play with that value for your own project. Now, since we have a lot to cover, I'm just going to paste some style I've already created just so that we can go a little bit faster. And I'm going to do the same thing for our navicon. So paste style. So next I'm going to click on publish, and it's asking me to add a condition. So I'm just going to include it on the entire website. Now, by doing that, it assumes that all the pages on the website would use the same type of transparent navigation. And if it didn't, you would just choose on which pages you want this to appear. But just to keep this tutorial simple enough, I'm just going to include it on the entire website. So click on save and close. Okay, and now if I go back to the front end, I'm going to refresh the page. And there you go. Now we have our navigation. And if I click, it actually launches the full screen pop-up that we created with our navigation in there. But if I scroll, nothing happens, and that's totally normal at this stage. So let's go back to Elementor, and with our section selected, so the top header section here, let's go back to layout and really make sure that the minimum height is 70 pixels. Now we want to take care of our tablet and mobile version. So click on responsive mode, go to tablet, and it should take the value from the desktop, but just to be on the safe side, let's give it a minimum height of 70 pixels. And then we want to move on to the advanced tab. And here I'm just going to unlink the padding values. And once again, I'm going to give it 5 on the top, 5 pixels on top, sorry, 30 pixels on the right, 5 pixels at the bottom, and 30 pixels on the left hand side. But now, as you can see, we don't really want that middle column here. So what we're going to do is first click on the first column here and give it a width of 50%. Then click on the second column, give it a width of 100%. But then move on to the advanced tab with our second column selected. Click on responsive, and we want to hide that on the tablet and on the mobile. Now it still shows here in the admin, but it's not going to show on the front end, and I'm going to show you that in a moment. But first of all, let's select our third column. So click on the third column here or in the navigator, and let's give it a 50% width also. Now, if you want to see what it really looks like, just click on the arrow that you see here. And now you can see how it's going to look on the front end. So don't be confused by this middle section here. Well, we should be able to actually hide the view of this column, but for some reason, when I click on it, nothing happens. It actually works when you don't set the responsive option. So I don't want to confuse you, but for the time being, if you just want to see what it looks like, just click on that arrow here to have the preview. Okay, so that's working good. Now let's move on to the mobile mode. And once again, we want to select the whole section, then move on to the advanced tab, unlink the padding values, and we want to give it 5 pixels on the top, 30 on the right, 10 at the bottom, and 30 pixels on the left. Once again, let's preview. Something's wrong. And that's normal because we need to do the same operation we did for the tablet. So select our first column, give it a width of 50 pixels. We've already hidden the second column for the responsive. So let's move on to the third column. And once again, give it 50% of column width. And now if we look, it all looks good. So let me update this. And now let's go back to the front end. And if I go into mobile mode, let me refresh. And as you can see, it's looking good. Okay, so it's working good, but how do we add the transparency? Now, let me show you. Let's go back to Elementor. But before we do that, let's make a quick test. So let's select our header section here and go to style and click on the background color and drag the opacity in the middle, more or less. Then click on update. Now let's go back. Let's refresh. And as you can see, it took in the opacity into account, but the content is still way below. So let me show you what we need to do. So if you recall, let's go to the layout tab. The minimum height is 70 pixels. So go to advanced. Make sure you unlink the values for the margin, and we want to add -70 pixels. But to make it work, you actually need to write 70, then go all the way to the front and add the minus sign. Okay, then click on updates. Now let's go back, let's refresh. And as you can see now, the content has shifted up, but it's still some pixels here. And I wanted to show you that because depending on your project, on your logo, it might be different. So you're just gonna have to play around with the value, but it's really easy. So in my case, all I did was play around with the value and I found that minus 80 was fine. So let me go back. Let's refresh and there you go. So now it's working good. We have our transparent navigation, but we still need to add the stickiness. But before we do that, of course, we need to take care of the responsive views. Because right now, if I go back into mobile mode, let me refresh. We still have some pixels here. So we need to really go into detail for each view once again. So let's go back, then go to tablet. For the tablet, I'm going to unlink the values. And once again, I'm going to add minus 80. And for the mobile, once again, unlink the margin values. And it's going to be minus 105. Let me try that. Let's go back. Let's refresh. Okay, and it's looking good. And let's take a look at the tablet version. And it's also looking good. Okay, so let's go back to our desktop view. And now is the time to add the sticky behavior. So with our section selected, you want to go to advanced motion effects, and where it says sticky, select top. Now, importantly, you want an offset value of 0 and an effect offset value of 1. Next, click on updates. Okay, so now we should have our sticky effect. So let me refresh and let's scroll. And as you can see, it's working fine. Okay, but we want to go a little bit further. And if you remember the demo, it starts without actually the background color, and only when you start scrolling and scroll back up, you see the color here. And currently what we have is we have the color from the very beginning. It's transparent. You cannot really see it at the top, but when I scroll, you can see that it's transparent, but we want it to be really transparent at the beginning. So for that, we need to add some CSS code that you can copy and paste from the companion blog post, and you find the link in the description. Now, before we do that, we're actually going to create a custom footer.
Why?
Well, simply because we could add that CSS code in many different places, but for the sake of this tutorial, we're going to create a custom footer and paste the code in the footer so that it's available on each and every page. So to create our custom footer in the WordPress dashboard, go to Templates, Theme Builder, and then click on Add New. Make sure you select Footer, and we're going to call it My Footer. Click on Create Template. Now feel free to use one of the templates if you wish, but I'm not going to use that. And once again, I'm going to click on the plus to create a section. I'm going to create a section with 3 columns. Now it's almost exactly the same procedure that what we did for the header. So I'm not going to show you each and every step. I'm just going to show you the final result. So this is the final result. So let me move this. As you can see, we have our 3 columns. In the first column, I added some footer links. This is actually an icon list, but you could use a regular navigation. And then on the right hand side, I have some social icons that I styled. So nothing really complicated here. Now we need to add some CSS code. And for that, make sure you have the footer section selected here. Click on Advanced, then go to Custom CSS. And we're just going to paste the code that you can copy from the companion blog post. Now let's give credit where it's due. This code comes from the Ignite web design website, and you'll find a link in the companion blog post so that you can check the original blog post. Now I've only made some tiny minor changes. So basically what the code does is that first it sets the background color to a 70% opacity of the black color. And if you recall earlier on, we actually added a black color to the header, and I told you this was temporary because for the time being, if we publish the code like this, it's not going to work because first of all, we need to clear the color in the header template, but we'll do that in a moment. So once we've done that, it's going to set the color to 70% black. And these are RGBA values, so you could change the values if you want a different color. And then it gives a transition to make it a little bit smoother of half a second. Next, we want to change the logo size. So we're going to give it a maximum height of 50 pixels at the beginning. And then when we start scrolling, it's going to give it a size of 40 pixels. So nothing really dramatic, but you can change those values depending on your logo. I have a very vertical logo, so you might have a different type of logo. So once again, you're going to have to play with those values, namely the 50 pixels and 40 pixels. Okay, but for the time being, if we publish that, it's not going to work because it's targeting a class called my logo, and we haven't added that to our logo. So we do that in the next step. So nevertheless, we can actually publish this code. And once again, it's going to ask us where we want to display our template. So let's add a condition, entire website. But once again, of course, if you only wanted that to apply to specific pages, you would do it differently. But for the sake of this tutorial, we're going to do it like this. Okay, so now that we've done that, we need to go back to our header and we need to fix, first of all, the background color issue. And also, we want to add the my logo class to the logo image. So what I did, I just copied my dash logo. You don't want to copy the dot, so you just want to copy my dash logo. You don't want the dot in front of it. Okay, so let me copy that. Okay, so back in our header template, first of all, let's select our image. So click on the edit icon here. Then go to advanced, and where it says CSS classes, we want to paste the my dash logo class. Once again, it's very important that it's exactly what you see here, my dash logo. Okay, and next we want to select our section, so the full section. So here in the navigator, then go to the style tab, click on color and clear. Okay, and now let's click on update. Okay, so now let's refresh our page. And it works. As you can see, it's fully transparent. And if I start scrolling, there it appears. And now let's move on to the tablet mode. So let me refresh. Once again, it works. And last but not least, the mobile. Let's refresh. And it works fine. So for the time being, it's like this when we start, and when we scroll, we have the background right away. Now, if you recall, it was a bit different in the demo, because in the demo, it starts like this, completely transparent, and then when you start scrolling, it just plainly disappears. And then when you start scrolling back up, it reappears. So if you want to use that type of behavior in your project, I'm going to show you how to do it back in Elementor Pro, and more precisely in the custom footer template. So click on the widgets icon, and then you can start typing HTML, and we want to use this one here, the one on the left hand side. I'm going to drag it in the middle, and all I have to do is copy and paste the code from the companion blog post. Now, what this code does is that it checks when the user is scrolling down, and when it does, the code is just going to put the sticky navigation out of the picture. And for that, it uses the CSS ID navbar, and that's why it's so important that you really use the exact same ID on the header CSS ID. We did that in a previous step. Okay, so next, all you have to do is click on update. Okay, and now if you go back and we refresh, okay, so let's scroll down, and as you can see, it works. Now let's try scrolling back up, and it reappears. Okay, great. Now the last thing we need to take care of is our full screen background. So when we click, we have a unified color background. Now you may like that, and if you like it like that, it's fine. Now if you want to have the same behavior we had in the original demo, which is the transparent blur background, I'm just going to show you how to do that. So back in Elementor Pro Theme Builder, and more precisely in the full screen navigation that we created at the beginning of this tutorial. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you click on the settings icon, so the gear icon here at the bottom left corner, and then click on style, click on color within the background, and then you want to change the opacity. I'm just going to give it more or less 80% opacity. So that's the first step, and the next step is to go to advanced, custom CSS, and all you have to do is copy and paste the code that you find in the companion blog post. And there you go.
Blurred.
So let me update that. Let me go back to the front end and just one more time to show you, this is what we had before I refresh the page. Let me close and let me refresh the page. Okay, so let's try one more time. And now as you can see, it's working. Let's scroll so that you can see it even better. Let me click, and as you can see, the background is blurred, the background is semi-transparent. You can play with the opacity and just to suit your project, or you could have just a regular background. Now let's check our tablet version. So I'll scroll, navigation disappears. I'll start scrolling back up, and then let me click on the navicon, and we have the transparent blurred background. And last but not least, the mobile phone. So once again, let me scroll. The header disappears. Let me scroll back up. It appears. Let me click on the navicon, and we have our semi-transparent blur background. So I hope that you now feel confident to create a sleek and professional transparent sticky header. And once again, if you're interested in purchasing Elementor Pro, you'll find my affiliate link in the description below. Now, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up as it really helps growing this channel. And if you want more tutorials and web design goodness, then make sure you subscribe to this channel and smash the notification bell so that you don't miss anything. Oh, and if you want to create a beautiful branding identity, I've created a brand guidelines template that you can download for free on my website. Initially, it was created for Affinity Designer, but you can also use it with Adobe Illustrator with a workaround. So that's it for this video. I hope to see you in the next one. And in the meantime, don't forget to invest
In your success.